Mini Me. I am America, and you can be too. Late night edition. Hello, hello, night owls. How the hell's everyone doing out there? So we'll just do a quick check here to see how live everything actually is. So looks like things are proceeding apace. Live over there, live over here. See if anyone is logging on to this wonderful show. And looks like everything is working as it should be. Fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about tonight is military carry in Oklahoma. Well, first things first, a little housekeeping, making sure that this stream is shared in a, okay, somebody's reacting to one of my posts in EDC, Oklahoma. But first, making sure that this is shared to the E Pluribus OTAP site, because just, can you imagine if it wasn't? Yeah, that'd be terrible if I didn't do that. And we'll do some post-production later, but we'll get that taken care of, take care of those housekeeping issues, and then we'll get this show on the road. So we'll do that. So, of course, if you like the content that we're bringing, make sure that you, as they say, tickle that bell for the notifications. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you have not already done so. Follow us on the Facebooks and on the YouTubes. Make sure you're a subscriber. And, of course, support us on Patreon. There's the link there. You can go to patreon.com and search for E Pluribus OTAP, or I've made it really simple. Patreon.otap.com will take you right to it. Different levels of support and subscriptions there. We really appreciate your help. Everything helps to keep us going. As they say, freedom isn't free. Please chip in your $1.05. So again, we're going to be talking about military carry. Now that we have permitless carry, or good old constitutional carry, as some people like to say, do we need to have military carry in Oklahoma? And what does that mean, military carry? That is the fact that for a number of years now, we've allowed people to carry in Oklahoma using their military ID. So people on active duty military, National Guard, or reserve. Now, not retirees. You have to actively be serving in some capacity, or military technicians, fed techs. So if you have that type of a military ID, that could be used in lieu of a state-issued handgun license. So the question is whether or not that is something that we even need in the post November 1, 2019 era here in Oklahoma, where we have permitless. And there's also a question from a Daniel Boyle coming from the Oklahoma Open Carry Association Facebook page, asking, as an Oklahoma resident carrying in Oklahoma with only a non-resident carry permit from another state under the Oklahoma Reciprocity Agreement, he even gets really specific, Title 21, Section 1290.26, and then also maybe thoughts on dropping the age for applying for an SD license to 18 instead of 21, as many other states have done. So that's a very good point that he brings up. In fact, in Oklahoma, getting back to military issues, if you are in the military or a veteran honorably discharged, the age starts at 18, in fact, for such people to apply for a handgun license, whereas other normal people, i.e. civilians, you have to wait until age 21 to get a license to carry a handgun. And of course, the age to purchase a handgun is 21 versus 18 for long guns. So let's see if we have any activity on the chat. And there we go. So we're going to test something out here, something new. We're going to test some of the features here to see if we can do some picture-in-picture. A graphics setup. And let's see, disable camera, share screen. All right, let's see if we can do a little screen share action. Application window, share screen. So let's see, do screen 2, share screen. All right, here we have reciprocity agreement. See if we can do side by side here. Did that work? No, on air spotlight. Oh, look at that. I can switch over. I can switch that over. That's pretty cool. And oh, I'm in the corner. This is great stuff. So that's reciprocity agreement. So what we're looking at here is the text of the Oklahoma Self Act. We're just scrolling through it rapidly. We're going to get to the part that talks about military carry. Let's see, term of license renewal, definitions. Okay, here we go. Possession of license. This is on page 3 of the Self-Defense Act, right here. This is where it gets into the meat of the issues and license. And this is from something that a person that's currently in the National Guard in Oklahoma asked a couple of nights ago, asked if there was their handgun license. The answer is yes, because of this section right here. If the cursor swinging and spinning around. So if a person is 21 years of age or older and is either active military or a member of the Reserve or National Guard, to include Federal Status Guard, Active Guard Reserves, or military technicians, and presents a valid military identification card, shall be considered a valid license issued pursuant to the Oklahoma Self-Defense Act. So let's highlight that if we can. There we go. You can see that's highlighted. Again, shall be considered a valid handgun license issued pursuant to the Oklahoma Self-Defense Act. So under the law in Oklahoma, it's the same. It might as well be a handgun license that the OSBI issues. So no difference, legally speaking. And that is a big deal when you think about the exceptions to the law that are still in place. And by that, I'm talking about the loopholes, if you will, the exceptions currently exist in regard to constitutional carry, where you still have to have a license to carry, particularly the issues that have been so prominent regarding alcohol issues. So basically, people that are in the military, if you have your military ID on you, the alcohol issue is a non-issue for you. So these places that are licensed alcohol as a non-primary purpose, you are good to go. And you know, I have my weekly visits to Fuzzy's Taco Shop that I love to make I love to make reference to, and a lot of people from Tinker Air Force Base are there, so they're obviously good to go. The other that I said we were going to talk about issue about carrying in Oklahoma with only a non-resident permit under 1290.26. We'll just do a little jump down to that section here, and we will bring the split screen that. Let's see here. You know, I was able to do this the other day. Let's see, application. Here we go, share, and very interesting. Settings. Any valid concealed carry permit valid by another state, or if the state is a non-permitting carry state, this state shall reciprocate under the permitting law of that state. Basically, what this is saying is that Oklahoma recognizes all other state licenses, and if you are from a state that has constitutional carry, or say Vermont been constitutional carry for its entire history, they've never had license, recognize that whatever type of non-permitting scheme they have. But here's the thing. it's kind of a situation here. On the one hand, we have the constitutional carry here in Oklahoma, where if you just say, "Hey, I'm from California," and California, where we have crazy laws and it's really hard to get a handgun license, and okay, I'm going to use my handgun license here in Oklahoma because I cannot use Oklahoma's constitutional carry to go in Kentucky's or to that restaurant that has booze without a handgun license. Okay, I can't do constitutional carry to do that. Versus saying, well, I'm a living human and I'm over 21 and I'm not a statutorily prohibited person, so I'm just going to carry under the Oklahoma's constitutional carry or permitless carry provision, and yay me. You can go either way. But here's the thing. If you look into this, it specifies under the reciprocity because you're carrying under a from your state, you are now required to notify law enforcement as soon as you come into contact with them. The firearm must be here it is. The firearm must be carried concealed, unconcealed, or concealed. Upon coming in contact with any peace officer of this state, the person must disclose the fact that he or she is in possession of a concealed or unconcealed firearm pursuant to a valid concealed or unconcealed carry weapon permit, license, or valid military identification card as provided for qualified persons of this title issued in another state. Whereas you are carrying Oklahoma or but in either case, if law enforcement asks you if you are carrying a firearm, you are then required to answer affirmatively. And if you do not do so, I believe it's a $100 fine for failing to let them know. So that's just weird little nuances there that people may not be aware of. And it really gets down to poor proofreading of the existing body of law within Title 21 that went into the updating of the law as far as when constitutional carry was put into effect. And that's the thing that most people need to really understand, is that the constitutional carry law was not truly a separate law that went into effect. It was merely a provision inserted into our existing body of gun laws, collectively known as Title 20 or the Oklahoma Self-Defense Act. And it changed some things around, and it inserted some, which the way that it interacted with other things wasn't fully taken into consideration. So it's kind of like when you debug computer code, when you enter code in one spot, you have to be fully cognizant of how it interacts with the rest of the code, and there's unintended consequences if you don't take all of that into consideration. And so that's why we have some of these little issues. That's why we have the issue with carrying in places that serve alcohol. That's why we have these issues having a loaded handgun in your car if you don't have a license with you and you're stopped for a moving traffic violation, and that still being a misdemeanor. That's why we have this issue here of being required to notify a peace officer if you're carrying under reciprocity versus carrying under constitutional carry or having an Oklahoma handgun license and things of that sort. So again, that gets back to why I tell a lot of people that going forward legislatively here in Oklahoma, one of the things that we really need to focus on, I'm saying for at least the next 5 legislative sessions, for the big overriding goal is to just clean up the language of the Self-Defense Act, to modernize it, much like what was done in 2018 with modernizing Oklahoma's alcohol laws. We need to modernize our gun laws to keep pace and to just clean this up, to chip away at it. We have this amazing lump of clay now of constitutional carry that we have, not requiring licensing from the state. being allowed to carry long guns legally in public for the first time in the history of Oklahoma, and these rough edges that we need to smooth away and to chip away at so that we can get this fine-tuned machine to get this polished final product, but we're not there yet. And that's what we need to work on. And it's baby steps. It's a game of inches versus yards, and we need to understand that it's all about making forward progress, forward momentum. It's not about compromise at all. And when I say that, that does not mean being an extremist or an absolutist. It's about coming together as a community, all gun rights activists or enthusiasts, people that are believers, ardent believers in the Second Amendment. We need to have more honesty and unity in our efforts and understand what it is that we want, what the ultimate end goal is, and work towards that. Again, with honesty and unity, realizing that that any steps backward are unacceptable. As the other side, they'll as they say, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And we don't need any inches back. We definitely don't want any miles back. We don't want to give up any territory moving forward, as it were. So that's really what we need to work for, and that is just the reasonable, rational way to proceed at this point. We achieved such a grand victory finally getting constitutional carry passed. It was such a great day. I remember it so clearly and vividly, being there in the blue room, in the blue room of the state capitol when Governor Kevin Stitt signed it into law. The first bill, in fact, that he signed into law. It was just a wonderful day, and we don't need to backpedal from that. So with that being said, we're going to check the chat, and let's see here. Okay, a couple of comments here. Hello, EPI. And let's see, mandatory masks are now required in Normal, Oklahoma. I guess that would be Norman, Oklahoma. I've heard that rumor. I mean, it's not a rumor, it's a done deal with their city council meeting that took place earlier tonight. Of course, shout out to our friends at Grunt Style. Good old "This is a tool." On the back it says "I am the weapon," and with us once again is our quality Glock drinking vessel, courtesy of our friends at Big Boys Guns and Ammo down the street in Mustang, Oklahoma. Monthly GSSF matches. There, be square, folks. Let's see. Anybody else checking this out? Let's see if there's any chat over in the land of YouTube. Any comments there? Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll leave it at that. Hopefully that answers some questions about military carry. We will talk more later about some of these issues with bigger issues with military carrying on the bases. So many people talk to me about how it's just bonkers, crazy, particularly here in Oklahoma, how we let anybody who is in the military, who has a military ID, carry guns out in public, and yet they are not allowed to carry on the military base, on the federal military installation. But of course, that's a federal law versus state law issues of federalism. And basically, federal property, that's a big no-go. Get total gun-free zones. And in many respects, they are Constitution-free zones. And that fact, that fact is a very unpleasant, uncomfortable truth that factors into the recent tragedy that took place with the death of that female soldier in Fort Hood, Texas. And that will be a topic for a video that I will be doing hopefully on Friday with a couple of veterans, the male in the couple. Here we go. The Antifas and the BLMs and all of those people are going to hate it. Standard standard nuclear family right there, old school family values, a male and a female married, right? But anyway, the male of the couple is former Army, former National Guard, and his wife. She, her, he, him. You got to have their pronouns these days. And the wife, she is ex-Navy, former sailor. And anyway, as veterans, they have this unique perspective on things, and we're going to be talking about some of these issues and news and views on this that many civilians just find incomprehensible. The factors that played into this. Everything from how the military tells service members to deal with things like sexual harassment to actual sexual assault. How one is a workplace human relations issue versus how one is actually a crime, yet you're not told. Well, it's not just a matter of being not told to go to law enforcement for a thing that is a crime. You're specifically told to not go to law enforcement. You're told to go talk to your boss about it, as well as, not being able to defend yourself. The aspect of being in a giant gun free, as well as unofficially criminalizing to an extreme degree adultery, which is really unheard of in this day and age in the civilian world, and how the interplay of all of these things came together in a perfect storm to lead to this tragedy. And some of the things, like I believe it was yesterday, there was a cruise rally protest thing outside the gates of Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City of people, I guess, showing support or protesting the death of this female soldier, and they're honking their horns and they're waving Mexican flags outside of their cars. And some people were even saying that, how could this soldier be missing for so long without anything being done? And how could they not find her? And why weren't they looking for her? And they let it go on this way, and they didn't care. And they did these things. They failed her because she was Hispanic and all these sort of things. And again, a lot of this is because of the great disconnect from the general population, the civilian population, and the military population. Because, again, we have the all volunteer force, and that has been the case for decades and decades. And there's a chasm between the two, between the civilian population and the military, and there's just such a chasm of understanding of how there are just two totally different worlds and how things operate between the two, and not understanding that, especially in this day, in this environment where in the civilian world, there's all of this racial drama and ethnic strife, whereas over in military land, a lot of that is just simply unheard of. And, we're all just shades of green because, camouflage uniforms, and, everyone comes together for mission readiness. And it's just a really interesting dynamic. So looking forward to that. Going to be on Friday. Hope to be able to do that earlier in the evening. Looking at maybe shooting for. I'm hoping 8 p.m. ish Central Standard Time. That's 1900, 2000 for military folk, or the rest of Earth. So we'll see how that works out. And then also tomorrow, I'm hoping to do at some point. I've received some word from some of my contacts within the law enforcement and corrections community. This is sort of a hot button issue because of what's been going on in here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County, with the district attorney charging these looters, rioters, demonstrators, whatever you want to call them, with terrorism and excessive charges and excessive bail, and plugging them into the county jail and whatnot. But anyway, I've been receiving some word on what happens to some of these people when they start to go through the system. and how the system and the other people already in it receive them, and how it is a very, very, very rude awakening, and how they get a not so delicious taste of reality uh, when they get there. So anyway, we'll be looking forward to that. And I think on that note, we're going to sign off. Once again, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, support us on Patreon. There's a link there, patreon.otap.com. There's our YouTube channel. Again, quick and easy, youtube.otap.com. And I am Adrian Otap. Out of Mini Me, I am America, and you can be too. Have a great night, everyone.